any better. Any better at all. Yay, we have audio capture, we have streaming, we have internet. Only half an hour late. So far, so good. Close that one. Come on, Windows. It's not working how you want to. Work how I want to. Right. Hey, I am going. Right, here's the thing. Not a lot of things. This is Cura. What I need is to import some files. So, no, not bespoke, bases. Basic base. What size am I doing? Who's where? I need a 25mm, 100mm. Ooh. 140, 232, 525. So let's go for the 525s. 28mm version 2. Cura always does this. I have it set so that when I use this, it imports it correctly like that, so that you can print one at a time, and it just fails. Let's have a look. I actually want 25mm, and I want really 25mm, although I kind of don't, and I want to keep it actually at 3.8. Warhammer does 3.8mm bases. Everybody else varies from 2 to about 7. 3.8 seems reasonable. Basic bases. It's what you want, I think. It's what I want. Warhammer compatible. I figure you can't go too far wrong then. Multiply is on here somewhere. Multiply selected. Stupid wording. I want 5 copies. And reload the printing scheme. And let's add these one at a time, because I've just remembered. Oh, you blocker. Not only do you lose the printing scheme, but you, for some reason, with a dual printer, it's got 2 heads, so it just refuses outright at the beginning to print it according to its own settings. But if I have only 2, let's have a quick look at slicing. When you preview, which one's it doing first? The one at the front. What do you do? I want it the other way around. So what it's actually printing first is this one at the back. So that needs to be at the front. My printer's got a big bar across it going behind, so you have to start at the front and work backwards. And annoyingly, it's always the opposite way to whatever it is that you import. So let's go back to the prep screen and multiply to get a third one, lose the printer settings, bring that to the front, send this slightly back. Obviously I'm not going to print them in this stupid line, but I need to remember which way around I'm doing it. I want 4, I want 6. You're the newbie, and one more. Come on, you're the newbie. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Right. Now, stick that back on heavy bases. I spent a long time building up these profiles, so I couldn't possibly tell you all the settings. It's probably enough to say that there are lots of settings that I have changed to make them work. I particularly like this one at a time business. It saves an awful lot of time when you're printing on a FDM flatbed where it actually does what you want it to. It only does what you want it to if you measure it, measure it, measure it, and measure it again. If you don't, then it all goes wrong. So for instance, this says that as long as that's there, the overlap is fine. It isn't, because the gap for the print head needs to be slightly bigger than the machine believes, because the print head whizzes around here. So you need at least at this scale one of these centimetre square blocks between them, probably more. If I shove this right to the edge of the print plate, it won't like it. The print head can do it. The print plates don't get heat at the right level at the very edges. So even though I'm using a glass plate, you have to make sure that you bring it in slightly. You just account for every problem that the printer manufacturers never believed would happen but does. It's one of those things. In theory, theory and practice are the same. In practice, they are just not. Okay, my printer, and this might not be the same for everyone, mine has a diagonal that works really well, which is bottom left to top right on this diagram, so from there all the way across there, and one that works really badly, which is that one. Specifically this corner up here, this one, and this corner over here, come on, this one, do not print nicely. It's because of the wobble in the train track thingy that holds them. The bar that holds them has got wheels stuck out the side, then the track pulls it along forward and backwards, which is fine, except it's not very level. It's really poorly designed, which is odd because it's apparently one of the better designs, my Elegoo Saturn. But it wobbles. The whole platform wobbles. You put pressure on one side and it tilts slightly because it's only held up by a few wheels underneath. If it was actually held up by something a bit better, just further apart, like the wheels on a Mini are on the corners. Greatly fascinating design because it makes it really stable. It's excellent. Whoever it is who designed a Mini would cry if they saw the design of the Elegoo. It's not elegant and it's not stable. So I don't want to push out too far with this one, which means to leave the correct print head gap, I can get away with it to a degree with these because they're only a few mil high. But if you do really tall things like pillars, you really have to make sure that none of it gets trapped underneath the bars as they move around. Many's a time I found a grounding machine where it's rolled the bar down onto the print, dropped it on top of an existing print, ground away until it believes it's at the bottom of the same level as the platform, and then started printing furry wool in midair because it doesn't actually connect to the build plate. It's horrible. It is horrifyingly awful. Right. That is a square away from that. That is a couple of squares away. I probably want to drag this further down just to be sure that the bars don't go clonk. That's not bad. I also, just for my own purposes, and this is probably pointless, but I do it anyway, I like to line these things up so that keep it on the build plate, so that vertically and horizontally they work differently. You never have two aligned in the same directions. I think that's OCD. Don't know. It gives me huge pleasure to know that these are all separated, even if they probably don't need to be. I think it comes from when I've watched the print head stop after a power cut, and the print head over here will just go diagonally straight to the corner. So I figure if I space them out a bit, it will avoid the print head dragging directly into one of the prints, should there be a problem. In theory, there wouldn't be. In practice, there often is. Right, I think these are about as spaced out as I can make them without losing the plot. Let's have a look. One of the things I've found, a weird setting, is that let's check. First one at the front, second one, third one, fourth one, fifth, sixth. Brilliant. Why are they odd angles? I didn't turn them. That is really odd. And loose slicing, why don't you? Preview looks good. I just need to check on here. One of the weird settings that suddenly came in, it might have been me, I might have clicked it thinking it was a really good idea, is to fill all the holes in, at which point I've ended up with flat bottom bases without my little diagramming, because that little blokey that I designed for Warfigure, that's pretty cool when you see it printed. So where are we? Search in the settings for holes, I think it was. Take caps lock on. Hole horizontal expansion. New remove all holes. Yeah, that's what I did. Seemed like a really clever idea. Yeah, let's just print the whole thing. But when you've got bases that act like bowls, it just filled the bowl. What I got instead of a base that acted like a bowl was just a pyramid, or like a chopped off cone. Right, 39 minutes. I don't believe you. I reckon that's about an hour's printing, maybe an hour and a half. It tends to only print, well, it gives you an idealized time. It prints approximately 1.5 to double the amount of time. I guess it depends on each printer and the settings used. Bases. I may have already set up 25mm bases. Not that I can see. Okay. Save it as 5 times 25 mil V2. And then I'll transfer that. Next, I need to do 100 mil. So I don't generally bother saving these projects. They look reasonably cool. The print is designed to give you a relatively smooth edge, providing you've got a very flat glass plate, providing you've got a relatively non-wobbly printer, it should be fine. I might get 5 out of 6 out of these, or I might get 6 out of 6, I don't know, we'll see. It might depend on whether or not there's a draft because someone opens the door. Right, start again. Select all, Control A, and delete. 60 mil needs to be 100. 100, not 1,000. Don't need uniforms. Or do then. I always feel bad about doing it flat. 3.8 mil flat. It seems ridiculous for a 100 mil base. I can't see that doing it any bigger is going to be any better. And I haven't had any feedback from any customers. But if you're going to print a 100 mil base, it looks like a pancake. It's ridiculous. Can I do 2 at a time on here? Maybe. Although these are bespoke printed to order, and people really like that, actually having one spare is not a bad idea. I bet you just work the wrong way around, don't you? Let's assume that you do and work around it before we even try. Having a 200 mil build plate is really handy. I think in future I may invest in a 400 mil or something. I still haven't managed to get the build plate to print really nice, pretty jigsaw type map tiles. Possibly because of this wobble, because of the poor design. Not quite sure how I'm going to beat that, other than taking it apart and putting it back together extremely tightly. It seems a bit much to pull your printer apart because of a design flaw. I'm not sure that's enough room. Probably that much. How about you? Oh, I hate it when it does that. Don't spin around. You know when it's spun around because that corner's missing. It took me ages to work out that that reference corner is always going to be bottom left. Why? Arbitrary. Somebody decided it. That somebody wasn't me. Could have been anything. Yep, that seems to work. Let's slice that. Sounds about right. Big flat plate, 3 hours. Probably nearer 4.5. £36. I used to look at these costs and think in terms of those. It's a bad idea. That might be 72 pence worth of plastic, but that 4 hours at 300 watts, that puts a whole load on again. And if your platform is out slightly, then you're going to have to reprint it, and you might have to reprint it a couple of times. That's partly why I'm doing 2 at a time. One of the things that comes in really useful though, let's just double check actually that I did it, is the bottom layer. Bottom. I use a standard 0.4 head. I must, there we go, bottom pattern initial layer. By using a concentric bottom layer and then overriding it with jigsaw, or lines in this case. I think I do jigsaw for the ironing. Then it gets so much neater. Not quite sure why I've chosen lines. I think I was playing about with it. Zigzags usually quicker, but quite as neat. Might be worth it in this case. 3, 4, 5 hours is big old print time. Right. Name your file 2 times 100mm version 2. Let's stick it in the right place. So I've done 100mm, 25mm. I need 2 32s and a 40. Okay. Nearest I've got is probably the 28mm. Scale it up, it's easier. 32, 32. Why are you at 3.3? Oh yeah, because it builds up slowly to 3.8. 25mm bases or 3.3mm tool. 28 should be 3.4 actually. I need to. Have I got the right STL? Probably not. Let's have a look. There we go. That sounds correct. 3.8. I don't want uniform scaling. 32. 32. I haven't actually tested this with calipers, I've just done it by eye. But it gets to a point where you put one base upside down compared to another and put them together, and you can generally tell. That sounds really naff, and I'm well aware of that. But actually, if you're interested in models and painting and the like, you really can tell. When we deal with 0.1 of a mil regularly, as kind of our default setting, the difference between 3.8 and 3.9 is noticeable, even in millimeters. Okay, so there's my base. 32mm. How many did I say? 2 of them and a 40, I think it was. 32 times 2, I'm on 40. Okay. I find it really annoying that they call it multiply selected instead of duplicate. It's just wrong. It's a bit of Chinglish. If I'm scaling, then it's multiplying. It is quite literally a scalar. Scale factor. 2 32s and a 40. Bring these forward because the 40 is the last one's on, so it's the so it'll print last, will it? Have a look. Don't open. Why, Cura? Why? Why do you make life difficult? Probably because I'm the only person who actually does this. Let's have a look. I'll line it up again shortly. It seems a bit of a waste slicing it and then doing it again, but you kind of have to. Have I got it the right way around? Nope. Wrong way. Last one in, first one out. Okay, so you at the front, you at the back. Get thee behind me. Base print. Knowing what my printer's like, I'm again doing that thing of lining them up. I don't actually want them to line up perfectly over each other. I quite like doing it by hand like this because I've got glue splattered all over my glass panel, my glass base, which is fine and helps with stickiness. And I spray it as well with Elnet hairspray, which helps. But it also really helps if you don't print in the same place twice. So do it, line them up manually. You're always going to get slight discrepancies. It adds very minimally to the to the different layout, and it means that they will print all the better for it. I don't necessarily need to do this, but I like to look at how the print is built there by there. Even if I only do it once or twice. I found the triangles on the inside make better supports as well. Apart from anything else, when you do on the top of the, like when you get to there, that bit where it creates a solid top cover, it doesn't do solid if you have big gaps. What it does instead is some kind of like peeling skin effect. It's not very nice at all. And you want solid, and you want to build on solid like this. So that's what you do. Before this new Cura version came out, before it was Cura 5.0, you couldn't actually get different sizes on these either. So you get tiny little artifacts in between all the build. So it really became important how big every setting was. I find that fascinating as well, the moire effects. Ugly, but fascinating. Right, save to disk. 2 times 32 1 times 40 V2. Purely because of the way printers work, annoyingly, not only do you have to where is it? Monitor Neptune, that's what I've got. Not only do you have to monitor how it works during the actual print, but mine hasn't got Wi-Fi and hasn't got any kind of network connection, so I have to plug in a disk, and the disk that I was given fails all the time. So save it on a hard disk and then just copy the ones you need over to the disk that fails. It's approximately 1 in 10 times. In fact, it was regularly 1 in 10. Every single 10th time that I put a new G code onto the little plug-in disk, it would fail. Oddly, not doing it so much anymore. Maybe it was a Windows thing. But it used to fail actually on entry to the printer, which is hugely annoying. Right, I've prepped those. Next time I'm hoping to do a bit more 3D sliceriness in Lychee, but hopefully those will print nicely. At some point what I ought to do is upload photos of how they come out. These always leave artifacts. I mean, they get ironed on the top here, so they don't artifact on there. These come out really nicely, but it's the underside. and these come out slightly spotty, and if you're really unlucky, where it's showing moving from one layer to another, it actually leaves a visible chunk out of the side, and or it misaligns as it moves, as it pulls away and then goes back and replaces the head down. Annoyingly, what you can't do at the moment is spiralize the outside while still doing all the normal stuff on the inside. That would be cool. Cura, if you're listening, spiralize the outside for me. Only the outside, not the inside. I want to ideally, actually, what I want to do is do a mix of both. I want to kind of jitter on the inside and then smoothly segue into spiraling and then jitter and so on. But I'm not sure you can handle that. You'd have to spiral 2 layers, jitter one, jitter another, spiral 2 layers, and so on. But anyway, if I designed what Cura does, that's what I'd do. For today, that's it. Hello viewer. Sorry viewer. Goodbye.